Hi there, my name is Tyler, and today we're going to be reviewing, going over, and giving my thoughts on James Bond No Time to Die, the newest and final installment of Daniel Craig as James Bond in his fifth appearance in the 25th James Bond film in cinemas. Before I give my non-spoiler review and then my spoiler review, let's tap this into the culture calculator, or whatever I'm calling it nowadays, being an 81 out of 100. I think that this film did a lot well and kind of a lot not so well, but overall, I think it tied together a lot of loose ends and continued the story from a pretty bad Spectre film that was 6 years ago now. Create something new and exciting and good, but convoluted and kind of messy at times. Too many characters. Excuse me. Too many characters, too many new characters, and then some of the old characters coming back. Of course, they need to come back, but they need to be given a better or bigger role. Some examples of Q being in the film. He is really good as usual, but Moneypenny or Naomi Harris kind of doesn't serve a purpose. That being said, also the new 007, who this is not a spoiler because she's in the trailers. The new 007, because James Bond is retired in this film, doesn't really serve too much of a purpose. I enjoyed her character. I think that she's kind of pretentious at times, but her character arc does definitely grow throughout the film, and James Bond and the new 007 build a connection and a respect for one another, but I just don't really see how her being in the film really contributes other than the last act, which is definitely the weakest portion of the film. Let's hop into the non-spoiler review, even though we've started. The action is definitely the best of any of the Daniel Craig installments of the James Bond franchise. 100% definitely awesome. I think it shows, and it's really kind of meticulous and intentional, the amount of bullets that's fired by Daniel Craig's James Bond compared to like the henchmen, right? They're missing here and there, but Daniel Craig's version, right? He's very particular in the amount of bullets that he fires, showing that he's more skilled, and it's kind of giving, more convincing that he's able to kill 20 plus people without being injured, because he's so much more skilled. I think that his hand-to-hand combat definitely lacks in this film, but he is older, so it makes more sense, and his younger, not predecessor. What's the opposite of predecessor? Incumbent. His younger incumbent definitely steps up in that area. And then also Ana de Armas's character does a lot of ass kicking as well. But she's definitely underutilized. She's only utilized in one portion of the film where they're in Cuba for a little stint. But she is awesome. She definitely has those kind of googly eyes where she captivates the audience whenever she looks at the camera, and I hope that she comes back. I think that she could be a really good standalone movie that's kind of like a separate spin-off of the James Bond franchise, as I was reading in a Times article. And I think that's a good idea, and I think that she could do really well as kind of a Cuban James Bond-like assassin. But without getting too much in the weeds, I enjoyed this movie and gave it an 81%. I think the plot is kind of convoluted. Rami Malek does very well with what he's given, but I don't think he's given enough as the main character or the main villain. There's too many bad guys, I guess, in this movie, which is kind of a thing that I would say about most of the Daniel Craig era James Bond movies, is that there's just too many different bad guys with different levels of success. And we'll kind of talk about that in the non-spoiler or in the spoiler version of this review. I think that Madeline, her coming back as James Bond's love interest, is awesome. She is definitely the best performance of this film, and it shows in the first 20 minutes. Definitely go see this in theaters. It is definitely worth the watch. Support your local movie theaters, like I always say. And don't wait for this to come out on a streaming service, because it probably won't. I don't know if any James Bond movies are on any streaming services, and I don't think that they will be. Moving on, though, let's kind of get into the spoilers, shall we? I'll take out my notes, and we can kind of go down the list and give you a better understanding. Definitely watch the movie before this part, but I don't think I'm going to give away too much, except for all of the plot. So, go see the movie. kind of going down my notes now, kind of like how I like to do. Bond is retired in this film, right? We open this movie with Madeline and her mother as she is a child getting kind of invaded on by Rami Malek's character as he's a little younger. I think the age discrepancy doesn't really make much sense. How is Rami Malek not aged 20 years, but Madeline's character has? But I think this is a really good opening and really says a lot about her character and her past that we didn't really understand before this scene. This is the only James Bond movie by Daniel Craig that doesn't start with him fighting the bad guys or running or destroying buildings or whatever. There is no car chase at the opening, and I think that's really cool and different. James Bond does not have to be a stagnant character, static character that does the same thing in every installment. He, of course, needs to kill bad guys, kick ass, and drive his Aston Martin. But let's see some character development throughout these 5 films, and there's a big payoff. There's big payoffs in this film of these are not actions that would have been taken by Daniel Craig's James Bond in Casino Royale or Quantum of Solace. We can see that the events of Skyfall and Spectre have really affected him, right? He goes to Vesper's grave and says, "I'm going to forgive you for betraying me," which is not something James Bond ever does. But of course, this leads to him getting back into action, or kind of, at least. Moving on, the opening scene is really cool. I think that not having blood come down in the pistol shot is kind of weird, but I liked it because going from red to white in the opening would have been a little weird. The title card with Billie Eilish's song "No Time to Die" was really good. I liked it. Not as much as Skyfall's title intro, but there's not really much that you can do better than Skyfall because it's such a good movie that I really need to rewatch. I think the title card reveals too much, though. Christoph Waltz being in this film is displayed in the title card, which he is the main bad guy in Spectre, who we knew survived, but I didn't really want to know that he was in this film. I wanted to find that out while watching it. Moving on, please watch Calvin Dyson's review. He really has been educating me on, indirectly educating me with his reviews of the previous films before making this video. And I don't agree with him on everything, but, sorry, I ate some Jersey Mike's. I don't agree with him on everything, but I think that he is definitely way, way, way more knowledgeable than me. And I think it's a little gatekeepy, but he would acknowledge that. So I really like his videos, and he is the James Bond guy on YouTube that you should definitely check out. I kind of see Skyfall, Spectre, and No Time to Die as a sort of trilogy with previous installments, of course. And I think that this definitely wraps out that trilogy rather well. Christoph Waltz being revealed as not actually James Bond's brother is good because everyone hated that. And I think Christoph Waltz does a lot better sorry, my fantasy football thing's going off. I think he does a lot better at portraying Blofeld in this one than he did in Spectre. I think that he was just kind of unrelentlessly evil in the last installment, and now that he's been humbled by all of Spectre dying, he kind of he plays it well, and I like it a little bit more. Ana de Armas is freaking awesome, is what I wrote, and I hope that she's a connecting piece to the next franchise, like M was in the last one. And she's definitely way too underused. The villain backstory, being Rami Malek, is hard to understand, and his motivations are questionable. We understand why he would want to kill all of Spectre, of course, because Spectre killed his whole entire family except for him. But why is he wanting to murder millions of people? And it just doesn't make any sense. I think that the Doctor having the motivation to make this evil nanobot weapon makes a lot more sense than Rami Malek's characters wanting to use it. The Doctor is kind of funny and silly, but he's evil in the sense that he wants to prove that he can create such a weapon that no one else can, and he's proving that to himself in the entire movie. He doesn't care who he works for. At one point when Daniel Craig's character James Bond is fighting, what's his name? Logan Ash, who's kind of this weird villain that's only there to kind of explain how Spectre would have known that James Bond was showing up to their little get-together for Christoph Waltz's birthday party, which was awesome, by the way. I loved everything about that part of the movie. But he's definitely not someone of particular interest, and he just convolutes the plot, and he dies off pretty easily. But what I was saying, which I have no idea even what the fuck I was saying. Yeah, there's too many villains. There's another henchman who shows up through the entire movie, who was cool, and he had this bionic eye, and James Bond says, I really blew his mind, or whatever, with the watch, and I liked him, but I don't think it was necessary for him to keep showing back up or anything like that. Madeline is definitely my favorite character in this film. I think that her performance in particular is amazing, and her being able to portray the emotions that she's feeling when Bond is breaking her heart and she's breaking his, and it's kind of like we understand both these characters and we want them both to be together, and when Bond in the beginning, like opening car chase, is just sitting there like heartbroken that he thinks that she betrayed him, but she didn't actually, and he says that he'll never see her again, which is him reverting back to his normal, comfortable self. But he knows deep down that he actually feels something for her. And she just, all those emotions are portrayed really, really well. And when she gets on the train and she covers her stomach, it's showing that she is pregnant at that time with James Bond's, daughter, unknown probably at the time. But she knew she was pregnant. And I didn't realize that until watching a review on the film. So probably on second, watching, I would be able to see even more because I have only seen this movie once so far. But yeah, why would Rami Malek want to kill millions of people? Doesn't really make much sense. Please comment down below what you think his motivations were. The Doctor's motivations make sense. He just is an evil scientist who wants to prove that he can make something really cool. To him, of course, but Rami Malek utilizing that weapon doesn't really make much sense. Overall, I enjoyed it and found the flow to be good aside from the runtime. It could have definitely been 20 minutes shorter, but it also could have been 20 minutes longer in the sense that the editing is pretty bad. You can tell that whole scenes were clipped out, and the continuity doesn't really make sense. The plot continuity makes sense, but some of the scenes, like, there's not context provided necessarily, and I think once you watch the movie, you'll be able to tell and kind of come back and tell me how you realize that as well. Moving on, Bond's hand-to-hand combat isn't good, but his marksmanship is shown well compared to the goons. And then the overall plot of this, I don't really know if a lot of people have thought about this, but it's kind of relatable to COVID, right? The device that is used in this film is kind of comparable in the sense that we infect everybody, and then we choose who lives and dies. The people who have the power of this weapon. And I looked over at my girlfriend Andrea in the theater and looked at her, and she was like, I was waiting for her to say it because we both thought of it at the same exact time. She was like, COVID, so I don't think that there was necessarily like inspiration from COVID for this, because it's just another big bad guy with a weapon that can kill everybody. But they actually joke about that in the film, which I think is funny. And lastly, before we wrap this up, giving it an 81%, as I've continued to ramble, I don't like that James Bond dies. I think that James Bond, there are certain aspects that can be dynamic and out there, but I think that him dying doesn't really accomplish too much. The daughter being in the film, making James Bond have a daughter, makes us feel more sad when he dies. But that's really it, right? Why did he give up? Why couldn't he escape from the island? Why wouldn't he just try to do something about the nanobots that were in his blood that would have killed him or his daughter and his love interest, Madeline? Why didn't he just try? He's James Bond. He doesn't give up. So I didn't like that, and that probably removed 5 points from my score. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie down below and what you guys want to hear me review next. See you guys. Thanks. Like the video, please. And subscribe for more movie reviews. Bye.